Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited to be guest designing for Heffy Doodle. I love this stamp set, so I was so excited to share it with you and share the technique that I use to get this galaxy background. So we'll get into that in a minute, but first let me show you the stamp set. Funny story, was on the internet the other day looking at someone's card, and I saw that the sentiment said zooming by to say, and I was so elated because we're using Zoom constantly for work. Too much. Side note, that's a story for another day. But I saw that sentiment and I was like, oh my God, that's fantastic. Where is that stamp set from? And she said, Heffy Doodle. And I looked in my stash. Sure enough, I had it. That is a key sign that I have too many things. I love Heffy Doodle, so I'm so excited to be joining them for this month. Okay, so I'm going to first grab some black watercolor cardstock. I'm going to use my Mini Misty here, and I'm going to lay out my stamp images because I'm going to do a one-layer card without masking, which is I've never done before. I hardly do one-layer cards, but I thought this would be really fun, especially since I want to mail out so much lately. I would love a flatter card. So I'm putting all my images down on this black watercolor cardstock, and I'm trying to figure out where would I put my sentiments and where do I want things to lie. I am going to pick that up. Then I am going to use some Gina K embossing ink. Before that, though, I'm going to, of course, use my embossing buddy, which makes it a huge powdery mess, which, you know, that's just the way that embossing buddy works, and you can get rid of that powder later, but it's helpful. In this case, because it's a galaxy, it really doesn't matter too much if you get white speckles of your embossing powder, because you can just chalk those up as stars in the universe. But in normal situations, you want to make sure that you have as minimal static as possible. I'm going to stamp those out, and then I'm going to take my super fine white embossing powder here, and I'm going to cover it. Now, for some reason, I should have stamped them twice, because for some reason, the white embossing powder did not stick as well as I was hoping for. So after that, I went in, and this is the second round. So I re-stamped them. That's the beauty of the positioning tool. I put them back in, re-stamped them with the embossing ink, and then went back over with some white embossing powder. So now we have a really stark white background. I'm wiping this down. It's not super pertinent that I get it perfect because, again, we're making a galaxy, which is going to be a hot mess before it's anything else. So we're just going to go with it. I am pulling out my Arteza mica powders here. These are the pigment colors that I'm going to be using today for the galaxy background. I'm going to be coloring my little astronaut tiny bit different, so later on those colors will show. But I'm pulling out, this is the chameleon green, we have magenta, bright blue, lemongrass green, and spring green, and that's going to make up the background. On top of, at the very end, we're going to use some noir, so adding some black to that. I first put down some color to my background. The beauty of this embossing resist technique is that it's not going to go inside my images until I'm ready for it to. So it's not going to seep in there because that embossing powder, especially with 2 layers, is going to create sort of a well for it so that it keeps the color at bay. And so I'm adding this mica powder to it. Now, a couple things about mica powder. They seem to go on beautifully when you add water, like this technique where you put the water into the mica powder. Seems great. They watercolor amazing. You can watch for yourself. I was having so much fun with this background. But a couple things to add that I'm going to do. I did not have at this time this thing called gum Arabic or Arabic gum, and that's going to be something that it's like a powder that you add to your mica powder, and it's going to make it stay on your project without wiping off. I didn't have that at this time, and so what I did to kind of, I guess, compensate for that is I added a spray at the end. I used hairspray, and that's going to kind of set it. So just keep that in mind if you're using just pure mica powders. This set from Arteza is amazing because you get so many colors, but you want to make sure that if you are expecting it to not wipe off at all, that you add a little bit of that extra bit to it, or you use something like a spray adhesive that will hold and kind of seal it in. All right, so that's my tip for that. because I do not plan on stopping the use of these mica powders anytime soon. They're incredible. I got so much shimmer and sparkle and color pigmented on the back of this black cardstock. Yeah, so give me more of that. So now you can see I've switched to watercoloring the inside of my images. And when you put your paintbrush into just a tiny bit of water and pick up that powder, you're going to get a lot more pigment. And obviously it's going to be less diluted, so you're going to get a really, really nice color for those images. And I seriously had a blast doing this. I thought this was so much fun. Right now, even the way it looks right now, usually when you're doing galaxy backgrounds, it doesn't matter what medium you are using, your backgrounds look messy. It is what it is. But I'm not usually making a galaxy background with the images already on it. So that was new for me, because I thought, boy, if I mess this background up, this whole card's a wash. But thankfully, that is not the case here. I was able to pull it all together as you usually do with galaxy backgrounds. You just have to kind of keep working at it. I'm going to go in with these 3 colors here, and I'm going to add them to our little astronaut. That's going to bring our little astronaut to life here, so he's not just an outline image floating through space. And I just used some very basic colors. Most of the suits are going to be white, so it was really easy to fill in that suit. I put a little blue on the backpack and the helmet. I did a little bit of color on the face and the hair, and then we pretty much are going to be done with him. It was very, very simple to finish up the coloring with him. I love this 1-layer card because I just felt like it's not something I normally do. I usually am doing things with a lot of dimension, and this was great because as I'm packing up cards, lots and lots of cards, I'm noticing that I'm having to squeeze in the card into that envelope like I'm going to be squeezing into my jeans here after this quarantine. So the situation is real, folks. I got to cut back. It's really hard when you work like 30 feet from your kitchen. Is anyone else feeling the struggle? Yeah, so I got to get my life together with regards to what I'm eating. Anyway, back to the card here. We're going to add a little bit of this black noir. This is still the mica powder added with some water. And I wanted to do that because I did not want all that color. I wanted to bring the background just like a galaxy. So now I'm going to add some white gouache. This gouache is from Arteza as well, and I'm just going to add that to make my background look like a bunch of stars in there. So I don't know if you know this, fun fact about space. There are 200 billion stars in our galaxy alone, okay? The star that we see all the time is the sun, and that's the closest star. It's in our solar system. But there are 200 billion stars in our galaxy. And do you know how many galaxies there are? Like 1 trillion. I'm just saying, folks. We might not be out there alone. Okay, back to the card. Love space, by the way. If you watch any of my videos, you know I'm a space nut. All right, so I'm going to take this hairspray here. This is Tresemme, tried and true Tresemme, and we're going to spray it onto my card panel with the hopes that it will keep my card intact. I believe it will, and so far so good. I've had no issues with it, and it's been hours and hours of this card drying. And I just am in love with this card. I think it's just so fun. I'm going to use some Barely Art glue, really strong adhesive. I'm going to place that on my cardstock. Cardstock I'm using here is 100 pound accent opaque, very sturdy cardstock, folded to a top folding card. And now I'm going to take some of these really fun sequins here, and they're just stars, but they're that holographic type of star. So they add just a little bit of punch to this card. You can probably put those all over, throw out the rule of threes, throw them all over your card, and you will have yourself a happy galaxy. I do add the sentiment. It says, hello, zooming by to say, and then you could put whatever you want in the card. This could be a congratulatory card. It could be happy birthday. It does not matter because that sentiment leads you to whatever you want. So that will finish up the card. Thank you so much for hanging out with me through this. Thank you to Heffy Doodle for having me. I'll be back later on in the month with another project. And I thank you again. I'll list everything I used below in the description box. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow me on other social media platforms. And here's a couple videos on screen if you are interested in checking those out. Until I see you again next time, I'll see you in the comment section. Have a great day. Bye-bye.